Okay, hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining our latest video. Today we will be previewing the Falmouth Stakes and the July Cup from Newmarket's July meeting. Really, really nice meeting. Always enjoy meetings that take place during the week selfishly because it means I can find the workday slightly more tolerable. Hopefully no one from work is watching this. I know they probably won't. But yeah, we've got two really quite interesting contests, especially the July Cup, which has had some quite major news flow today with notable speech being supplemented in. Godolphin subsequently were favourites for both races, and they will be looking for a turnaround in favour after what was quite a disappointing Ascot for them. What we're also doing is a slight turnaround in normal format. We are going to be running through every horse today that are running in the Group 1s, and we will be attaching a price relative tag to them. So the scale is hugely attractive, neutral, unappealing, and hugely unappealing. I imagine we will probably spend a lot of time in the middle, but it should provoke some discussion about what we think about each horse and why we think so. Could be an interesting format to do. Let us know what you think of it, and we will adjust accordingly if you like it or don't. So yeah, Daniel, before I get into the Falmouth Stakes, anything to add?
Oh yeah, definitely. The first thing, thank you for not mentioning Delacroix.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Saturday afternoon, I had to take myself to a dark room for about an hour at 3:37. Furlong out, convinced that my opinion on Delacroix was completely right. And what a difference 12 seconds makes in one's opinion of a horse, and indeed one's own judgment.
Yeah. That was quite an exceptional race.
You dinner.
Yeah. Right. Let's get straight into it then. Cinderella's Dream at 3-1. She was second to Crimson Advocate, who's also priced 9-2, beaten a length by a half. So do you think that's Cinderella's Dream's true running? Does that explain why she's favourite? The bookies are clearly taking a stance that it wasn't. And then at 3-1, where does she sit in the scale?
Yeah, well, we put up an article recommending people back Cinderella's Dream at, I think it was 8-1, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think bookmakers took an adversely negative initially view of her defeat at Ascot. She was giving weight away. Of course, there was a Group 2 and she's Group 1 winner. She won't have that weight penalty now. She's back at Newmarket, which 2 runs back was an absolutely superb performance, and she was all over her opposition, after about 7 furlongs. No, so I'm not worried about the drop in the mile back to a mile per se at all. Newmarket tracks, that works. I'm only neutral on her at 3-1. I think there are others I like more at the prices now, but she's got a massive chance. I think she's probably the right favourite, if you like. But yeah, I'm only neutral. You?
Yeah, likewise. Really liked her for the Duke of Cambridge, and my enthusiasm has been somewhat tampered by that performance because, yeah, I'd been very keen on her. January at 4s is next in the betting, so we don't know for certain which of or both of, or even if all 3 of the O'Brien trio are going to go. But January seems to be the one that has been most talked about by Ian O'Brien. She's therefore the shortest price of the lot of them, but 4-1, I think, is probably unappealing.
You're on the unappealing side. I'm torn between attractive and hugely attractive for January. Yeah, absolutely. I'm very bullish on this one. I mean, it seems almost certain that she's going to be the Ballydoyle first string, so with Ryan Moore. She had a very, very long break. She was slow to come to hand, whatever. She had about 8 months off. And so hence she was very dull. First time out, that's the MO for the stable in the Irish Guineas. Huge improvement in the Coronation. Not beaten far into third, and she came from right out the back, which I don't think was the place to be. She was the only horse in the last 3 furlongs to break 36 seconds. So I think she could take another step forward. She's got the benefit of a certain jockey who can do no wrong. Probably value at 4s. Yeah, I'll go for hugely actually at 4s.
Okay, wow, interesting. I mean, staying on at Ascot, to me, doesn't necessarily mean that they'll enjoy the Newmarket July course in terms of style of running. But yeah, I can see the case for a few sixes, but at fours, I don't find it very appealing.
It is true. Talking of the Newmarket courses, so she was twice second to Desert Flower last year. So she was close to the best last year. Except that she was much closer to Doncaster and much less close on the Rowley Mile. In my mind, that's ground related. That's good to soft. That was good to soft that day, and then faster ground. I think faster ground is part of the key to this filly. So. But you could be right that maybe it's a Newmarket thing. I don't know. But yeah, I'm still bullish.
One more factor for me, which is putting it towards unappealing, is the potential for a repeat of the conundrum you faced last week, where Ryan Moore chose a different O'Brien horse to the one that you were expecting, and the prices reacted accordingly. So, yeah, I think that, I mean, they probably... Bedtime Story was their first choice in the Diane, wasn't she? So they seem to quite like her. She got an entry in the King George of all races, so they must like what she's doing at home. And if they're to direct her here, it would be a very difficult choice for Ryan Moore. So that is factored in as potentially enlarging the price of January. Next in the betting, we've got the horse who beat Cinderella's Dream at Ascot, Crimson Advocate. She's 92. There's not so much certainty that she will turn up, but she's been left in at the 5-day stage. So hopefully. And okay, so without the weight, do you think she would have the beating of Cinderella's Dream?
Well, the weight was only £3, and the distance she was beaten equates to potentially being able to do it again. So that's not the concern per se. For me, there are two things. Firstly, as you say, there is still a slight uncertainty over this one. I think Gosden said he wanted to be sure she'd recover. So she wasn't a definite for this. That was the first thing. And the second thing is, I think one of the jockeys who'd written maybe an American one from American thing had said this filly really wants to go around a bend. If stretched out. So obviously she got that. She got that because the Duke of Cambridge is now round a bend. Wasn't once upon a time. She won't get that here. She's on the open mile, and maybe that will be more of a test. The fact that Cinderella's Dream, has done it on the Newmarket undulation so wonderfully a couple of months ago, that's what puts me there. So a combination of the slight uncertainty over running, and the question mark over the flat track and being able to do it again. Maybe the one who came latest was most advantaged, if you see what I mean, in the Duke of Cambridge. And maybe she was a little bit flattered. I'm not saying she can't win this, but she's somewhere between neutral and unappealing for me.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Probably, came in expecting to be a little more positive, but I have to say your case has probably swung me back into the neutral camp. Bedtime Stories next in the betting at 6-1. As mentioned, we are not entirely sure if she is going to go, and therefore she probably has to rank as unappealing.
She has to rank as unappealing because there's a huge question mark over her going, and we're ignorant about it, like everybody else outside the inner coterie over in County Tipperary. So till we know more, you can't get near her.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll quickly move on to Running Line, who's next in the betting at 12-1. So what do you make of her?
Running Line is a sort of horse I've been against before, but now I think I've kind of got it into my head that Running Line is perfectly capable of running an absolute blinder on her day. It's a question of knowing what her day is. So there was excellent win in the Duke of Cambridge last year by 2 lengths on fast ground, and then she ran another blinder in the Prix de l'Opera on very different ground and obviously different distance as well. This season she hasn't quite done it. She led last time. I think that she's more tractable. I don't think they need to lead with her. I wouldn't particularly want her to lead. But there'd be worse each way bets. Neutral at worst, maybe attractive slightly. It's not impossible. This attracts 7 runners, and I don't know, each way at 12s on Running Line, who I think is almost certain to run. I'll nudge into appealing territory. On her day, she could easily place, and she just possibly could win.
Okay. Interesting. We've got El Malka at 16s. Has not done anything of much note since her win at Newmarket last season. That was in the 1,000 guineas. She's plugged away at the top level, but I mean, she's regularly finishing about 4th, 5th, or 6th. Do you foresee that continuing here?
Yes, though Varian was on the front page of the Racing Post with an article saying how bullish he was about her. I'm chuffed with the condition of my filly, whatever that means. I can't, now she's 16 to 1. I can't actually quite make her unappealing as a, Newmarket Group 1 winner over a mile. Admittedly, the Rowley Mile, but a Guineas winner. I just can't quite get that out of my mind now that she's 16 to 1. So neutral. I won't go as far as appealing because, it's been a long streak of where that seems a long time ago, that Guineas.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we've got the lightly raced Chantilly Lace at 20s.
Neutral. She's lightly raced. She's had 3 starts, and the last 2 have been Group 1. She's been 5th and 5th. Not been far in either. I don't think the English Guineas was up to much. Coronation, maybe a bit better. I'm neutral. Maybe there's more in her, but I wouldn't bet on her.
Okay.
By the way, I don't. That's another factor that makes.
Yeah. Cool. Albertine is 25s. She ran a likable race in the 1,000 guineas. So do you give her a little bit of a squeak here?
Yeah. Again, neutral. Again, don't know if she's going. She was poor in the Oaks, but that's whatever. Was an experiment with 12 furlongs on good to soft. Now she's back to fast. She's now good to firm ground mile. I could see that eking up some improvement. Nudging. I would nudge to attractive territory if I knew she was running, but I don't, so she's neutral.
Okay. Exactly. 25s. Again, probably similar issue. We are pretty sure, probably in this case, though, that she is not running, and therefore she might be our first hugely unappealing.
Yes, but my but here is if I knew she were running, and I knew she were going to be running on her merits, and that's another big doubt because I think she was sacrificed in the coronation. She was sent for home furiously, sort of 2 furlongs out off the bend and faded. I think that was for January and Ryan Moore's sake. But if I knew she was running her merits and I knew she was going to run, she'd be hugely appealing at 25 to 1. She wasn't. She had a massive bump, but she's only beaten a length and a bit in the French 2,000 guineas. I think she's a really good filly. If she were, sort of dropped in and run to her merits, then I'd be all over her like a rash. But unfortunately, either she won't run or she'll be there just to sit up for in. So she is hugely long-winded ways, hugely unappealing.
Yeah, cool. We've got Atsila at 33s. So she, again, similar to Chantilly Lace, is quite unexposed, actually. She had made all at the Curragh to beat Circene, who obviously went on to win the Coronation Stakes. She was then dropped in the 1,000 guineas at Newmarket, held up out the back, and that was not a race that suited being held up at the back. So I think that partly explains her poor performance. Coming back here, you assume they would want to revert tactics to one that saw her win. And on this course, which can favour front runners, 33s might look quite big for Atsila. So I'd have it down as appealing.
Yeah, Circene looked good in the Irish Guineas, though nobody believed it, including me. Proved she really was good in the Coronation, and this filly is beaten for fair and square, and she's much less exposed. At the time they met. So, as you say, that 1,000 guineas Curragh run, not run to suit it. It was still too bad for her to have a chance in this, but she's only had 3 runs. Maybe there were reasons why. Pace, in addition to the makeup of that race, should be given another chance. I think she's bordering on the attractive.
Yeah. She did drift quite a lot on the day of the Irish 1,000, if I remember correctly. So maybe they weren't quite happy with her at home. We've got Lady Ilse next at 33s, a German horse, as you just told me 10 minutes before we start recording.
Yeah, jocked up. So you would have thought pretty almost certain to come over. On her last run, she won a German Group 2 at Düsseldorf from a horse who was then only been 3 lengths into 5th into the Prix d'Anne. So this one is probably pretty good, and German horses can often be underestimated when they come over the channel. That's like the negative for me is that was soft ground. And she'd previously been sort of well beaten on faster ground, and it's going to be rattling fast, isn't it, at HQ come Friday? So, yeah, reluctantly, I'm bordering into unappealing territory, despite a price that I would otherwise like. I've got ground out. So no, I'll go neutral. She's probably still underestimated because nobody's got a clue who she is really. But
Yeah, we can agree with you there. I had no idea who this horse was. Likewise goes for Pina Sonata. Hopefully you'll be able to tell us a bit more.
Yeah, not a huge amount more, other than she's obviously highly regarded. She was one of the favourites, going to be one of the favourites for a race run on Saturday for fillies, and I managed to forget the name of the race and indeed the track at which that race was run. It was the one which the Mueller Longtail, I think, was also withdrawn from. Anyway, whichever it was, she wasn't declared for that. She's come for this instead, presumably, if declared, which I don't know. But just looking at the form, I mean, she must have a stone and a half to find to win this race. So no, she's. I'm going to go hugely unappealing. I don't know if she's running either, but I couldn't. I like to try and make a case for outsiders, as you know. Couldn't make a case for this one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is the entirety of the field. Positive mentions, hugely positive mentions for January. Positive mentions for Atsila, and then. There was nothing else that was particularly strong or deviated far away from neutrality. So yeah,
worse each ways than Running Lion before, just in case it cuts up. That's the only thing I would think.
Yeah.
Although Running Lion can let you down, but whatever.
But yeah, 12-1 might be worth the risk. Okay, so we will go straight into the July Cup then, and we will continue with the same format. And at the beginning, we, as mentioned, have another Godolphin horse, Notable Speech, 4-1, dropping 6 furlongs for the first time. Having watched him race this season, did he look to you like a horse crying out for 6?
No. I think it's my only answer I can give there. And since he was declared, which took me completely by surprise, perhaps other people as well, as long as if Godolphin weren't unrepresented by the second favourite already before he entered. And then I sort of dug around. There's a Bloodstock piece in the Racing Post by someone talking that the pedigree is more speed than stamina.
Oh.
But their Notable Speeches nothing but a mile. I mean, there's not even a 7 furlong horse in race in there. That's a very difficult thing to do. And I can't think of anyone done it quite like this since Green Desert about 25 years ago, dropping down from. There's one other as well. I mean, in more recent times, Alcohol Free, for example, not only did she have a lot of 6 furlong stuff from a 2-year-old on her CV, she had also run a 6 furlongs sort of 2.5 weeks before Ascot in the QE2, where she was bad, presumably getting used to the reality of sprint racing after she'd been trained to race over a mile. So this guy, all I can think is he's going to go through the same, as it were, experience that Alcohol Free did first time she tried it. It's all going to be a bit of a shock to the system. I don't. Yeah. And when I heard he was going to be supplemented, and it came out on Twitter, and then the Godolphin, press announcement, but then he wasn't priced up. I thought, well, what will they go? Surely not as low as 5-1 or 9-2. Maybe it's going to be 6s or 7s. I might be interested if he was like 10s, and suddenly he's like 4s, and even that's almost gone. He's 7-2 favourite. No. Huge. Yeah. Come on, it's going to be another Delacroix, isn't it? But I'm hugely unappealing on this one.
No, I'm certainly not hugely unappealing. I think you get sucked in slightly by milers and just their class, and they tend to be more predictable and consistent results than sprints. So when you bring a horse in that has run well over a mile consistently, you like to think they're able to replicate it. But I do think 4-1's skinny.
Yeah, and just one more thing I forgot to mention. The other thing I looked into, his last run, for example, sectionals in the St James Palace. I mean, I think it was an 8 horse field or something like that. But he wasn't in the top half of the field in terms of his fastest furlong at any point. And you would have thought if this was a sprinter, masquerading as a miler, you'd have, I don't know, he'd be fizzling out after having done something sizzling at some point. But he didn't do anything sizzling at any point. So, yeah, no.
Yeah. Flora of Bermuda's next in the betting at 5s. More of a traditional route to this race, Duke of York, and then into Ascot. And then here, what do you make for it at 5s?
Well, that QE2 sprint was surely by far the best of the 3 sprints at Ascot.
Yeah.
The big two aren't here. Yes, she was well beaten in that, but she beat the rest. And this one always turns up. Her last 3 runs in really good races, arguably should have beat Inisherin the time before. Wasn't far off winning the Champion Stakes. I have thought in the past this filly probably wanted a bit of cut, and maybe that's her best, but she's done on good firm the last 2. Yeah, got a real chance. I really liked it, sort of the 7-1 mark and 8-1 mark, and took a bit of that a few weeks ago. Didn't like when she was, into sort of 4-1, 7-2 favourite. Liking her a bit more now, not enough to bet. It's neutral, but if she goes out anymore, she'd become attractive.
Yeah. In agreement. Symbol of Honour at 6s. So this was a horse really liked after his last run, but the way that the form has been working out with the horses that subjectively we're allowed to and did run in the Commonwealth Cup, it's not as glossy as it first looks. And obviously with Notable Speech being supplemented into the race, they're going to want Notable Speech to have a stallion career, and Symbol of Honour, obviously that ship has sailed for the horse. So it feels unlikely that they would want to peak Symbol of Honour running and beating Notable Speech, and therefore I think 6 is a bit small.
Yeah, I mean, this horse was hugely unappealing when he was sort of co-favourite at 4-1 a day or 2 ago. But now we know he's not Godolphin number 1. He won't have Buick on. And as you say, a neck beating of Arabian Dusk last time out doesn't cut it in here. No.
Okay, so yeah, huge unappealing for Symbol of Honour. Inisherin is next in the betting at 7s. A horse whose form at York is incredibly closely tied in with Flora of Bermuda, but he can be prone to a pretty poor run, as we saw at Ascot and as we saw in this race last year. And therefore, at 7s, he's in the unappealing camp.
Yeah, I don't quite understand why he's a line of blue today. And maybe there was some doubt over him being declared for this, and all the green light has made a lot of people think, okay, I'll have some Inisherin. I don't quite get it. He was dreadful in this last year. Well, not dreadful. He was poor in this last year, disappointed as favourite after a really good Ascot run, winning the Commonwealth Cup, impressively. And now he comes here having really run a bit of a stinker when I thought he was actually one of the most reliable ones at Ascot is running. So no, I don't see it at all. I can't throw him out. There's too much talent there.
Yeah.
But back him, and he's somewhere between neutral and unappealing at the 7s.
Yeah. Okay. Believing, who we put up at 10s a couple of weeks ago. I think we've written the article at 12s and was clipped in overnight, which was frustrating. But yeah, Believing at 8s, I think she's still pretty attractive at this price, isn't she? Especially when you look at those ahead of her in the betting.
Yeah. When we started writing the article, she was 12-1. It was hugely attractive. We published the article because the price went 10-1, and she was very, very attractive. And now 8-1, I still think she's attractive. On ratings, until Notable Speech entered, she rated horse in this field, and she'd had 73 days off, and she was drawn right on the wing, number 1 of 18 or however many runners there were in the King Charles. And given we know that the top 4 came from stalls 17, 14, 16, 15, to be drawn 1 was absolutely dreadful. That, the break, and they say they got the tactics wrong. I can see her bouncing right back to form here, and I can see her winning this. And 8's still too big. Yeah, attractive.
Yep. Okay, Whistle Jacket's next in the betting at 8s. I'm in the hugely unattractive camp for Whistle Jacket at 8s, but some shrewd judges are quite a bit more keen. So where do you sit?
I'm unsettled by the the serious tipster love for this horse. I don't get it. So yeah, price-wise, Tom Singer on the Racing Post. It was the anti-post pick for the July Cup a couple of weeks ago. Then, of course, you were getting, I don't know, something like a mid
25s.
I thought it was a high teen price. It was as much as in the 20s, was it? Now suddenly we're 7s and 8s, and the Sporting Life put up their horse by horse guide, Matt Brocklebank, this morning, and he says there's still juice in, the 8-1 if you can get it. There's almost none there. Absolutely, I'm absolutely amazed. I don't get it. I think it's dreadful value. This horse is disappointing. It's true that he was dressed up and nowhere to go in. Hang on, what race was he in? Having a brain fade. Commonwealth Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, so was another horse. So I like it much more. It was more than double the price. So no, I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Okay, yeah, both hugely unappealing. Whistle Jacket. We've got Big Mojo next at 16s. So horse that we put up for the Commonwealth Cup did not get a good ride at all and stayed on okay at the end. But the form of his early season form, much like Symbol of Honor, I think took quite a bit of knocking at Ascot, and now at 16s, I find him probably verging on unappealing.
Sorry, I'm just at a brain fade moment. We're on Big Mojo now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty keen on this one. Now maybe you shouldn't go back to where you were bitten or whatever the phrase is, because I was keen and said so on much of the podcast and possibly on X as well for the Commonwealth. But if you watch that race back, the Commonwealth Cup, it's frustrating to be on Whistle Jacket, even more frustrating to be on Big Mojo. It's enough to make a grown man cry. As he comes out of the stalls, he veers off to his right, smashes into another horse. Hollydale decides to try and settle him by settling and then take him off to the left, right behind the main body of the field. Kind of also drags him back, and he wanted to be further up. And then she's just weaving left, right. There's nowhere to go for about a furlong and a half, 2 furlongs. By the time he gets going, it's all over. He finishes basically upsides of Whistle Jacket, fine, half a length behind. I think he had the worst trip by far. And but give me the same price on the two, and I'd still pick Big Mojo. Given he's twice the price, I want this one. I backed him, and if he drifts, I'll back him again. I like him.
Okay, yeah. 16s was sort of the price that he went off for the Commonwealth Cup, and that is definitely a weaker race than this. So
he's had to basically, but he went off the price he was because he had unbelievably no luck in running, and the time before that as well behind Symbol of Honor, and maybe one should just give up on a horse who keeps finding trouble.
Yeah.
Waiting for this horse to get a clear run. I really think he's classy. He was one of the best sprinters of last year, one of those juvenile sprinters. So anyway, I'm not ruling him out. Maybe hugely appealing is overdoing it. Appealing anyway. I'd backed him.
Okay. First appealing versus unappealing. We'll see who wins this one.
No, not the dinner. Break me, dude.
Yeah, don't have drinks with dinner. Spy Chief 20s. Really quite interesting horse, actually. But you raised the point just before we got onto the call that he could be used as a pacemaker here. He made the running in the Jersey Stakes, ended up finishing a good second. On pedigree, he looks more of a miler, 7 furlong horse, so maybe they are happier just to get him to run as fast as he can for 6 and hope that Notable Speech overtakes him. But 20-1, what do you think of Spy Chief?
Quite confused. I have no knowledge that he's going to be run as a pacemaker, but my take is, he's Godolphin. They had the second favourite, now they've got the first and third favourites. Why are they running this one as well? So there are only 2 possibilities. Either Gosden says this guy is really good. Jersey was maybe a furlong too far. Give him a crack. Give him it's worth a whirl. In which case we should sit up and take notice, because he only made his debut in May. There could be any amount more improvement. But something in my mind thinks maybe they're just sacrificing one to make it as fast as possible for Notable Speech. I don't know. So comments the night before from the Gosdens from Connections would be interesting. If he sounds like he's clearly running on his merits, if that can be believed, the Connection comments, then he's not uninteresting. Neutral at worst, attractive at best. But I wouldn't go anywhere near attractive without being convinced he's not being run for other purposes.
Yeah. Would Godolphin use a Gosden horse for Appleby's pacemaking? I'm not sure on the politics of it, but it feels like Gosden has got an ego that would probably not appreciate that sort of questioning.
For a horse who only debuted 2 months ago, and has his head of him. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, so probably an interesting one at 20s. We'll see. We'll see. But Iberian is next at 25s. Would you like a slice of Iberian?
He's the kind of horse that if there are still, 16 horses in the field and someone goes 5 places, I probably would play each way. In that context, with extra places, he'd be interesting as each way. He's still not fully as exposed as a sprinter. He was 5th in the QE2, which was he was a couple of lengths behind Flora of Bermuda, but he got a hefty bump from her along the way. He's with Charlie Hills. You don't get many better people to give a sprinter to. I wouldn't rule this fella out running a blind. I find it very difficult to see him winning, but yeah, he's an extra place one. He's attractive. Otherwise, he's neutral.
Okay, yeah, so probably neutral at this stage, but have a look at the extra place market when the decks were in. Just saw at 25s. Could see this horse often being a bit of a wise guy horse, where he has a high enough reputation from some really quite eye-catching performances as a 3-year-old. But again, he's a horse that doesn't tend to like to win. So for me, unattractive at 25s.
Yeah, I was a bit torn on this guy, like sort of many other people, as you say, sort of maybe the wise guy approach. I mean, he has looked very, very good on occasions. The trouble is that those occasions are looking increasingly in the rearview mirror. A while back. I mean, he was only 6th, as in he was at least 6th in the QE2 Diamond, whatever that race is called nowadays. If he has on a going day and steps forward, he could definitely shake this lot up and finish in the first few. I can see that as a clear possibility. Equally, I could see a stinker. So yeah, I'm neutral, but I wouldn't rule him out. He's the kind of guy that if on the day they're doing sort of 40, 50s on Betfair, I'd just put £2 on just for the fun of it, as a little fun. But otherwise, no, I wouldn't back in this guy each way.
Okay, Night Raider 25s. Quite surprised by this price, given the prices that he has gone off historically. Are we therefore putting him into the appealing camp?
It's difficult. On the one hand, this horse has never been beaten on the all-weather. On the other hand, he's never won on turf. He keeps on. I mean, the last 2 times he started on turf in really good races, a G2 and a G1, he's been, if not favourite, sort of 3rd, 4th, 5th in the betting. At some point, surely people, including the trainer, are going to give up on the idea that this guy is potentially a Group 1 sprinter on turf. It would be nice to win a race on turf. That said, the speed he shows, the drop to 5 for King Charles was too much. But the speed he showed over 6 in the race won by Inisherin of back in May, pretty eye-catching. There's something still there, and 25s I can't throw him into completely unappealing now. He's that price, so I'm neutral.
Okay, Ides of March 50s always. I think did Ides of March potentially go off shorter than Whistle Jacket in the Commonwealth Cup?
I don't remember if he did. Of course, Whistle Jacket did have Rowan Moore, didn't he? But
yeah.
March was the anti-post price-wise pick, I remember, about 3-4 weeks before. And he was only beaten half a length by Whistle Jacket.
Yeah. And therefore, looking at 50s, is that, and then looking at Whistle Jacket at 8s, we're not sliding towards the attractive part of the scale?
Yeah, I am. I'm straight into attractive for Ides of March. I'm not going to back him now, but if they, as I say, they go multiple plate, well, they will go for certainly 4 places. But if someone goes 5 and he's still 50s or more, I'll probably have a go because, as you say, the half a length between them, couple of runs back. Forgive a horse 1 bad run at Ascot, Ides of March. Presumably, I don't think he's ever run at Ascot before. Son of, he's out of a Scat Daddy mare, so you might argue that he should handle Ascot, but who knows why he ran badly that day. But there's a good horse in here, and 50s is a little bit of an insult.
Yeah, 50s is definitely interesting. No half measures, also 50s, but unfortunately that horse is probably quite unlikely to run if the ground is as good as it is expected to be. So goes into the grossly unappealing camp, unless you're going to dispute that.
Hugely unappealing because I don't think he'll run because of the ground.
Yeah.
Hugely unappealing if he does run because of the ground. Yeah, just hugely.
Yeah, probably more of a 5 furlong horse anyway. Rogue Lightning at 50s.
No, there is the odd really good race on his CV, but it hasn't been the last couple of times, and I just think that this is where Wathnan isn't it tilting it a windmill too far.
Yeah, okay. Run to Freedom 66s.
No,
Similar thoughts.
He's old, and he was never a July Cup winner when he wasn't old.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Sprinters can find form at weird times, but yeah, no, it's highly unlikely that they do. Then lastly, to round it off, we've got Twilight Calls, maybe appropriate for the podcast, at 100s. I'm shaking my head. So, are you?
Like many other people, for season after season, of go on thinking there's a really big pot in big Group 1 in Twilight Calls somewhere. Usually spoils it with his break, but that place was usually at Ascot, where he's finishing fast in a Group 1 for third or fourth. This looks the less likely place for it. The switch of trainer, maybe it was a Henry Candy couldn't get them out of the stalls, and so a switch of trainer was going to make all the difference, but he's gone to Richard Spencer, I think, isn't it? It hasn't made any difference at all. So no, he's unappealing. I can't go hugely on 100 to 1 with an old favourite like Twilight Calls.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So that is a wrap on the July Cup. Positive mentions for Believing, Big Mojo from Daniel, not so much from me, and Ides of March, provided we get some extra places. So yeah, that was our run through of every horse that could well be running in the Group 1s, the July Festival, that's the July Cup and the Falmouth Stakes. There could be articles going up in the next couple of days about other races there, so please do follow us on Twitter and subscribe to the emails on our website, and you will be the first to see those, because the prices do tend to move, not directly as a result of our money being on, but maybe just anticipating how the market's going to react. So yeah, let us know what you think of this new format, whether you like it or not. We will not be insulted at all if you don't. We are just looking to try different things and do stuff in different ways. And it's been enjoyable for us, so hopefully it's been enjoyable for you. Anything to add, Daniel, before we go?
No, I usually do have something, but I don't this time.
Yeah, there's no finger being raised this time, was there? Okay, perfect. Well, I will take the opportunity to sign off. Goodbye, everyone, and speak to you next time.